So tell us about what are you doing these days?
So I've joined DataStax, which is a company that's built an enterprise database on Apache Cassandra. I joined a few months ago, but the really exciting thing that brought me here is to realize that Kubernetes is missing a data plane. And one of the reasons why I was missing a data plane is because scale out's really difficult. So I stumbled across this amazing opportunity to look at Cassandra as something that's already solved the scale out problem and figure out how do we marry that to Kubernetes and get it kind of into a good place in the Kubernetes ecosystem. So that's what I'm spending most of my time on these days.
What got you excited to join the company and strategy officer? What does that mean?
That's a good question. I guess it starts a few years ago, actually. So, in 2005, I was at Microsoft and I wrote a strategy paper which said that Microsoft had to embrace open source or it was going to be irrelevant, because I had seen all of these as a service companies cropping up and they were all using the LAMP stack. And, that was not a very popular point of view to take at Microsoft at the time. But my strategy paper made it around to corporate, and I ended up getting a call from this guy, Bill Hilf, who said, "Hey, how would you like to come up and work on open source technology strategy and report out to Bill Gates?" I thought, good Lord, are you kidding me? So in 2006, I took the job and I spent the next 3.5, 4 years working on open source technology strategy at Microsoft. I learned a lot along the way, but one of the things that really stood out in my mind towards the end of my time was we had just finished contributing to Linux. We built out all of these interoperability and virtualization drivers for Linux, libvirt contributions, bunch of driver contributions. Cloud was peaking. We're like, wow, Linux and scale out cloud is way bigger than Linux and software as a service. So that really drew my attention. Since then, I got to work at Apogee, which was focused on open APIs. Then I went to Cloud Foundry, where I got to help develop the biggest open source platforms as a service. And then I went on to Google, where they recruited me to run the Kubernetes business in late 2016. And what we saw there was this kind of neat requirement to be cloud-like, but not just stuck on one cloud. So how could you have cloud capabilities, but on your premise or any other cloud? And that was kind of the intent there. So I got to work on Kubernetes, all the Kubernetes CI/CD, cloud DevOps, a whole bunch of stuff built around that. And then I left Google and worked at Autodesk for about 15 months, where I was the head of the cloud platform team. So Autodesk gave me about 1,000 engineers, had about $180 million budget, spent $60 million of that on Amazon as we were becoming a cloud company and focusing on data. So all of that kind of combines and bring me to realize, wow, the hard part of this that is really not solved is data. We figured out how to do scale out compute, and that's built on top of scale out networking, which we take for granted. But nobody's really nailed the scale out data component. And we ran a 5 petabyte Cassandra infrastructure at Autodesk, which was growing by leaps and bounds, 800 nodes or so, building out a capability to store the world's manufacturing data that people were building in Autodesk software. But that was so hard. So when I came across Cassandra and DataStax as an opportunity to go bring to the cloud native world, I thought this is just so obviously the opportunity of a lifetime to understand data better, to be able to serve the community by linking a really well-proved open source database with really well-proved open source cloud native technology. Like, it just made sense.